Hello, everyone. Welcome to another usually scheduled Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I'm one of your two hosts, Noor Kyle, along with
the other one of your two hosts, Mushtaq Ali. I do the unusually scheduled Sunday talks.
usually scheduled unusual talks. Let's put it that
Yes.
way. So thank you so much for joining us, whether you're here live or you're watching on a YouTube replay. We are so happy to have you here. We have some new faces, some people we haven't seen in a while, some, regulars who we love, and of course, all of you who are watching behind the screen who are equally welcome and equally appreciated here. So, first of all, we have to do our YouTube spiel, which is, of course, the whole thing, like, comment,
Yeah, fortunately, these days
subscribe.
it's really
Trying to
easy
keep
to
it
do the
short.
spiel.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's like this video, subscribe to our channel, and please, if you can, leave a comment because we love your comments and we try and answer them all. It takes us a while to get to some of them, but hang in there and we'll get to you.
Yeah. And as far as announcements go, we do have our virtual retreat that is still open for registration. It begins, I think, November. We have our first get together, I think, November 5th, and then the retreat itself starts on November 7th. So there's still plenty of time to sign up, and the link for that will be in our description below, and you'll find more information at that link should you be interested. I think a bunch of cool people have signed up already, and I'll be sending out further information soon, so people can look out for that in their emails after they've signed up, of course. And other than that, do we have any other announcements or anything we need to share?
Yeah, the actual physical retreat is coming along quite nicely. That is going to be in May in Sweden.
Sweden, yes.
It looks a lot like what you see behind me. That's what a Swedish forest looks like, and our gig is going to be in a Swedish forest.
By a lake,
By a lake.
Pretty awesome cabin type lodge environment where we're going to be
snooty cabins, not rustic cabins, very snooty cabins.
Yeah, pretty snooty, but in a good way. And we'll be able to spend more in-person time together, of course, on a more intimate basis. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to learn a lot together, and we will have more details about that upcoming. I don't want to get too long-winded, but we'll get to that sooner rather than later in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, we might even do a commercial video for it.
We probably should.
Yeah.
Look out for that. All right, so our topic for this evening is attention, and some very important things wrapped up in attention that we have not yet covered in previous videos. So I look forward to this conversation. I hope we can learn much more about attention together. Mushtaq, do you want to get us started?
I thought you were doing such a good job.
We're running this show together. Together.
So, in times past, we have mentioned that essence, dhat, has three qualities, or we model it as three qualities. Those being attention, intention, and presence. These three qualities must exist in harmony with each other in order for a person to truly begin waking up. And we start, you would think, oh, you start with presence, but no. We start with attention, training the attention, because without attention, there is no waking up. You need the attention to focus presence and intention. And attention is not just one thing. Well, it is one thing, but it has three facets to it. There are three qualities of attention.
It's always three.
It's always
three
three.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that there was a pattern there or something. So these three qualities have to do with the kind of attention that you are using at any given moment. And I'm going to actually share a screen here so that you can see a very sophisticated model that I made today to show you what I'm talking about. Now, I like to say that attention has volume, it has space, it's three-dimensional. So the x-axis, and that's from here to here, is forward backward. When you step forward, you step back, you would say you are moving on your x-axis. The y-axis is moving side to side. So if I step right and left, I'm moving on my y-axis. The z-axis is up and down. So if I scooch down and come up, I'm moving on my z-axis. Each of these represents a particular quality of attention. We're going to start with sharp focused attention. There are probably better terms, but I was in a rush, so I just call it sharp focused attention. This is the attention where you are single pointed on the object of your attention.
Yeah, we could call it narrow focused as well.
Yeah,
Right?
narrow focused, sharp focused, yeah, whatever. Sharp focused attention is the easiest one to develop and stay conscious with. This is where you put a candle flame in front of you and focus just on the candle flame and exclude everything else, for instance. Not that I recommend you do that because it's a waste of candles. But this is where you are paying narrow attention on a particular object or group of objects. And each of these lines is a continuum. That's why I did it like this. At one end of sharp focused, you have concentrated attention. At the other end of sharp focus, you have tunnel vision. And if you've ever been in a really scary situation where you were being personally threatened, you'll notice that you have a tendency, everything just comes down to this tunnel that you're staring through. And all of the peripheral stuff goes away. We want to avoid that and stay with the really tightly focused, directed attention. That's what we want to cultivate. And there's various different ways to do that. And we will touch on that in a moment, but we're going to do the broad overview first. The second kind of attention, represented by the y-axis, is broadly focused attention. It can be called soft focus. It can be called open focus. This is the attention where your attention expands rather than contracts, where you are attending to your entire environment without focusing on any particular aspect of it, but keeping it broad, keeping it open. So sensing the entire room at once that you're sitting in. And again, this is a continuum. It goes from the present, broad focused attention where you are sitting much like we do in the void practice. For those of you who know that, taking in your entire environment around you at one time without fixating on anything. The other end of that is being kind of lost in that open focus, where it's not, it's too undirected. It becomes, rather than broad focused, it becomes mushy focused. Now, the third, deep focused attention, is the one that we tend to neglect. Deep focused attention represents the third force. And as you know, Mr. G says, Man is third force blind. And so we don't see this attention a lot. This is the attention that leads to flow. Flow is at the top of it, and at the bottom of it is trance. Both are deep focused attention. Both are useful. All forms of attention are useful. Even though I make a couple of them sound negative. But there are trances that you can enter into, and you can enter into them consciously, that are beneficial for your work. For instance, if you are working on past trauma stuff, there are trances that you can put yourself in that can relieve those traumas. And that's the deep focused attention. But the other end of that is the flow state. Flow state is deep focused attention that basically holds the entire sphere that this represents. So you have the broad focus, have the ability to focus on objects, and at the same time, you are deeply connected with your own inner self in a weird way. So does that make sense? You see how those three kind of interrelate to each other?
Yeah, do we have any questions or
Yeah, that's what we want at the
thoughts so
moment.
far?
Make that go away. Tell us what you think. Ask questions. Give us answers.
Chris, yeah, sure.
Is is attention itself the thing in the center, or what's the name of the center of all those axes?
Yes, we haven't really defined attention, have we?
That's a good thing.
Yeah. So attention is the ability to stay present with the objects that are presented to you. So you're in this room that you're in. You can attend to the room, or you can let your attention wander and go into thinking about the past or the future. Attention is in the present. Even when you are thinking about something in the past or something in the future, you're doing it in present time. If that makes sense. You're not going into the past. You aren't going into the future. You're just contemplating those two states as objects given to your attention and consciousness. Does that sort of make sense? I'm not entirely happy with this yet myself, but we'll refine it as we go.
What do you think, Chris?
I'll defer to my friends here. So maybe someone wants to say something.
Jonathan, yeah.
So if we're going with that definition of attention being the ability to maintain presence to the objects presented to consciousness, with the deep focus, Z axis, is the trance end of the scale one where there's no presence? The presence has now become lost, or it's barely there. And
no, the presence is just very narrowly defined.
And what happens to the present? How would you describe the presence in the flow end, on the flow end of the Z-axis?
On the flow end, the presence is more broadly defined.
Okay.
Yeah, a trance is defined as a state in which you are deeply involved with a limited focus of attention. Flow state is a state where you are deeply involved with a broad focus of attention.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
So if I say to you, Jonathan, I want you to pay attention to the sound of my voice as I talk. And whatever you do not let your mind slip away from the sound of my voice and go into anything like internal dialogue or making pictures, but just be present here and now and listen to the sound of my voice. What you'll find is that you'll be able to do that for a certain amount of time. And then you won't. And you'll have to bring yourself back. And this is true for all forms of attention. And this is the problem of attention, is that we don't have very much of it until we have trained it. Attention is like the weakest muscle in your body, which in most people is the muscle that allows them to wiggle their ears. Most people can't do it. Some people can wiggle their ears. Most people can't. I would be in the can't category. But you can, if you practice enough, eventually learn to wiggle your ears by putting your attention on the muscles that pull the ears back. And then you get that little wiggly thing. And then you would have to build up the muscles because they will fatigue very, very quickly. Your attention fatigues just like your ear muscles. So what we want is to be able to use all three of these attentions, all three of these qualities of attention, whenever necessary. We want the entire sphere, and we want to be able to combine them in certain ways, switch back and forth between them. So you might be walking down the street and find yourself in broad focus, taking in everything around you. And something goes snap over to your right, and you look over there, and you go from broad focus to sharp focus just in 0.2 of a second. And you see what it was, and happily enough, it wasn't a grizzly bear, it was a squirrel. And so you can take a breath and relax, and then go on your way and pull yourself back into the broad focus. You can be doing something. Well, of course, I'm going to use the example of fencing because I always do. So I'm fencing with somebody, and I enter into a deep focus, into the flow aspect of that, so that I am present with that person. I'm connected with them. I'm connected with myself, and we are almost moving as if it were a dance. But my focus is not narrow, because it takes in the terrain, it takes in everything around me, while having this the foveal focus, the center focus, still on the person with the sword, but not on the sword. One thing I learned early on is that if I could get my opponent to look at my sword and pay attention to my sword, I would almost always beat them because their focus was too narrow. Make sense so far? More thoughts and questions?
I think so far we're okay. Thanks, Chris
Okay.
and Jonathan. Yeah.
So, how do you develop good attention, strong attention? Same way you get to Carnegie Hall. How do you get to Carnegie Hall, Noor?
Practice, practice, practice. Right?
Yes. So how do you practice attention? Any ideas? Is anybody paying attention?
What do you think, Zainab?
I was thinking to practice each one separately.
Yes.
Um,
At first you must.
but I'm not, it's as you practice the X and Y axis more often, would that mean you will go deeper into Z as well, or?
Possibly. And there are specific practices for the Z-axis.
Yeah.
And not only do you practice each of them separately, you practice each of them at different times of the day. For instance, you don't want to do the practices for sharp focus just before bed because you'll never get to sleep.
Yeah, it'll keep you awake. It'll keep your brain worrying more than you'd want it to when you're trying to get down to quality sleep. And that's the thing, right? Even if you fall asleep, it may not necessarily be restful, deep sleep. So that is why we recommend doing different things at different times according to what our neurology prefers.
Yes. So we prefer to practice the broad focus a little bit later in the day. And deep focus at the most restful times of the day for you. So, how do you practice sharp focus? This was
Zainab.
not a record. Yes, Zainab.
Yeah, I think we practice that a lot at school. That's the one that we have practiced over and over. Doing a math question or finding an angle of something.
Yeah, can be. So I'm going to give you a simple practice you can do.
I want to
Ta-
give Hind an opportunity
Oh.
to speak if she'd like.
Yeah, maybe like point in one point and fixating one object or one point for a certain time.
Yeah. There is, let me see if I can actually share this image. No, I can't do it that way.
What is it? Or
Oh, it's the background of my screen, which I will have to get to in a different way. This will get me to it. There we go. Okay, so this is something that historically we use to practice our sharp focus. This is way beyond what I'm going to give you this evening.
oh yes.
This pattern, what we learn to do is over times to visualize this pattern. We start by studying it like this, drawn on a piece of paper. And then we learn to see it in 3 dimensions. And once we see it in one form of 3 dimensions, we learn to switch it into another form of 3 dimensions until we can find every dimension that this image can show us. Top to bottom, bottom to top, side to side, coming straight out at you, going back away from you, all of these things. Once we have done that, looking at the image, then we start visualizing the image in our mind's eye until we can perfectly construct this image in our imagination and can see it go through the same changes. We can make it be, I'm looking up from the bottom, or I'm looking down from the top, or I'm looking from the right side or the left side. This takes a day or two. But this is a traditional exercise for developing sharp attention. If that sounds a little daunting, it should. It's hard, and most people will take anywhere between 6 months to a year before they're doing it well.
But it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be an ongoing challenge. So
Yes.
that is a higher level exercise.
Yeah. So instead of doing all of that, we're going to do the very, very first thing that you do before you even get to that, which is to learn to have a one-pointed focus of attention. And you do that, everybody sit up straight or straight-ish, if you can. If you're like me, you're kind of like, but. Now, put your attention on your breathing. Don't do anything to your breathing. Just be aware of your breath. Allow yourself to breathe in a relaxed, comfortable manner. Now, at the same time as you're breathing, put your attention between your eyes and back about 3/4 of an inch or an inch into your skull. And so you're holding the attention between your eyes and the attention on your breath at the same time. And what's going to happen is that you'll be able to hold this for a few seconds, and then you're going to be distracted. When you notice that you're distracted, bring yourself back to the present with your attention on your breath and on that spot behind your eyes, in between your eyes. So feel the space between your eyes back about an inch or so from your forehead, maybe a little deeper. And be aware of your breath at the same time. And notice when your attention becomes distracted. When it does, that's all right. Just bring it back. And then take a big breath, let it out, and put all of your attention on me. So that is a very simple attention exercise. Don't do this one before bed. Do this one in the morning after you wake up. It will invigorate you. It will help you be more present throughout the day. What do you think? Does that make sense? It's very, very simple. Easiest thing in the world. And I bet you none of you were able to do it for longer than a couple, 3 seconds.
I think I was maintaining it longer than that.
Yeah, but you've been working with us for a while, so you might be a little bit better.
That's true too. Actually, I did have a more general question, which is, to what extent do you work with things that you're naturally inclined to pay attention to, versus things that you are not naturally inclined to pay attention to?
Whatever you like.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if there are things that you're naturally inclined to pay attention to and be present while you are paying attention to them, that's all to the good.
So we're probably not talking about playing video games and focusing on that right now, right?
No. Video games do not do much for your focus, not much for your attention.
So we're talking more about like a specific point, either in the environment or on or in your body, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the rules. You all have heard us talk about the 9 precepts, which are one of the essential teachings of our tradition. And there are 3 of the precepts that are specifically for attention. And they touch, there is one for each of the 3 kinds of attention that I talked about. And those, the 3 precepts that work for developing your attention are Hoshtardam, which is awareness of breath, Nigadasht, which is watchfulness, and Yaddash, which is recollection. So, awareness of breath brings one's attention to the breath as the first step to awakening the essence. So, the first part of attention is placed on the breath. It doesn't mean that you change your breathing in any way, it's just breathing with awareness to start. Watchfulness is the part of attention is placed on the immediately perceivable environment. In this case, the point behind your eyes. And this is done depending on what you are working on, either in hard or soft focus. But without commenting, if you're talking to yourself about the space between your eyes, you're not paying attention to it. And the third, recollection, is turning reflexively on your own awareness. So, Hoshtardam helps you with sharp focus. Watchfulness helps you with the broad focus, and recollection helps you with the deep focus. So you combine all 3 of them at all times. Does that make sense?
So to some degree or another, are we always doing all 3 in a way?
To some degree or another, most of us are not doing any of the
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
in any way. Most of us are just walking around in a somnambulistic state, though we hate to admit that. It makes people mad when you tell them that. Grr. It's like the guy who habitually hates on our videos. He doesn't realize that he's just being a machine.
Which
But
is
I
his
don't
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is his right. And, we serve him by giving him something to hate on. So all is good. So that is an example. The first is an example of how you can practice sharp focus. The second part of that is you have an object as a third point. You triangulate. So you work on the breath. You find the space between your eyes, and there's an object in your environment that you pay attention to. And the environment can be inside you or outside you. When I first learned to do this, sure how to explain it. My teacher had me visualize the Arabic for Allah. And I would hold that visualization in my heart while I was doing these other two things. And that formed the 3 points of focus to give me my sharp attention. You don't have to do that. You can, pay attention to a spot on the wall for that matter, although I find that kind of boring. Now, we have worked on broad focus with the void practice. And so we're going to do a very, very truncated version of the void practice. And it starts almost the same way. Start by paying attention to your breath. And then you find the space between your eyes. Then you allow your entire body to become hollow. So your skin is a thin membrane between the inside and the outside. You have 2 points of awareness. One is on your breath, one is on the space between your eyes, and you have a sense of your body being hollow. Then you allow your attention to fill the room around you. It's best to do this with your eyes open. And you just let everything be broadly focused. You hear whatever sounds there might be. You feel the temperature of the air on your skin. You see the quality of light in the room. You don't comment on any of these things. You just let your awareness fill the entire room while holding both your awareness of your breath and awareness of the space between your eyes back about an inch or two from the surface of your skin, and a sense of your body just being empty, like a balloon, like a child's balloon. You could tie a string around your toe and let you float up. And then bring yourself back. That is a practice to help you create broad focus. Broad focus is literally open. You let everything come in at once. Again, without commenting on anything, you just be aware of it. Make sense so far? Easy, easy peasy.
Any questions right now?
Because if there's no questions, I'm going to make you do deep focus next. So you better come up with some questions just to give yourself a break.
Nope. All right.
Nope. Come on,
Onward.
Jonathan.
Deep focus.
Chris is down for the deep focus.
All right. Deep focus is equally easy. Or I should say equally simple, because none of these are easy. We're going to start the deep focus just like we did the other two. First is awareness of breath. Just be aware of your breathing. Don't try and change it. Just breathe comfortably. Second is awareness of the space between your eyes. Imagine that. Now, become aware of your own self being aware. Turn your awareness on what is being aware. And hold your attention on that, on your breath and on the space between your eyes. Feel your own beingness. Be aware of your own beingness as the observer. And this is the first step to deep awareness. Now, there's a lot more to all of this. And as it happens, our Sweden retreat is going to delve deeply into this. We're going to spend 5 days, 6 days, however many days we're doing this crazy stuff, focusing on this, or as part of it, we're focusing on intention, attention, and presence, and how to develop each of those
Yeah.
to create full-on being.
It's going to be 5 full days of that.
Yeah. And so that's going to include our physical movement practices, our meditative practices, lots and lots of learning, how the Enneagram works into all of this, the whole thing. So save up your nickels and dimes, boys and girls. You didn't realize I was going to work this into a commercial, did you?
Nice. I think it's good you're plugging it because it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
And it's also ridiculously cheap, and it's all inclusive.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody gets to eat there, sleep there, be entertained by us there. Noor might even sing y'all lullabies.
Whoa.
Maybe.
Hey.
Maybe. Yeah. It's there.
Yeah, actually, you and Zainab could do duets.
We have discussed this briefly. Thanks, Chris.
So there you have it.
Deep focus.
Here,
Any
here are the
questions?
three qualities of attention that can be developed in this model. There are other models. This is the one that we like. Therefore, it's the best.
Do we have any remaining questions about, deep focus we just touched on, for example? Any questions about that?
Was
Well-
everybody able to get a sense of themselves?
It's a
Mr.
broad
Gurdjieff
question,
says, Mr. Gurdjieff says that without attention, there is no self-remembering and there is no self-observation. You must develop attention before you can really develop those two practices. And he, like I, suggests that you start small. Because if you start to try and do something huge with your attention, like listening to, memorizing and reciting back numbers, long strings of numbers, you're not going to be able to do that right away. It
Most
takes,
of us, yeah.
yeah, most of us. I can do it, or I used to be able to do it. I haven't tried it in a long time, but I could do up to 9 numbers forwards and backwards,
Yeah.
which is enough. But then I got old. Probably can't do it anymore.
Nancy, you had a question.
Yeah, Mushtak mentioned using trance to heal trauma, and that sounded interesting.
Yeah, but that's way beyond the scope of this talk.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Some future talk, perhaps.
Yeah, or
perhaps.
ask me when we're just hanging out talking.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Totally feel free to do that.
Yeah, nag me even.
Okay.
Jonathan.
Yeah, I want to improve my ability to have control of how I experience my life. And it seems like one way I could have a choice is to choose what I put my attention on. Do I look at the TV, or do I look at flowers, or do I read a book? And that's kind of obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But then it seems like another way can develop control is to choose broad focus, or narrow focus, or the flow trance axes.
Yes. Choose the one that's appropriate for the moment.
But regarding presence, do I have any choice in the quality of presence, or is it either I'm present or not?
Yeah, that's basically it. In this triangle of attention, intention, and presence, we say attention has 3 axes. Intention has 2 axes. Presence only has 1. So yes, you are either present or you're absent. There are not degrees of presence. The idea that there are degrees of presence is one of the convenient lies that people tell you so that they can soak you for money, or any other number of things that people like to soak people for.
Well,
and when you are present, you have exactly the same presence as the Buddha.
So sometimes in the middle of the night, I might wake up. I mean, wake up from sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still very groggy because it's the middle of the night. I just woke up to turn over, let's say.
Yeah.
But on the rare occasion when that happens, I might remember to ask myself, am I awake? And I'm like, yeah, actually I am.
That's pretty cool.
But it's all so groggy. So there's no doubt I'm present, but it seems like a very weak and misty.
Well, yeah, you're experiencing the fatigue of your body. Your body has a lot to say about your state. And one of the things, I mean, I know there's all of these traditions of sleeping little, but those traditions are stupid. Your body needs the right amount of sleep to maintain your consciousness, to give you the strength to be present. And if you wake up in the middle of the night in the wrong cycle of sleep, you are going to be groggy, and you can be present and go, oh, my body is groggy, I should rest it. And there are ways to rest it while still being awake, which we'll touch on at some other point. But yeah, it's basically your body being tired and not having all of your neurotransmitters in a row for you to use. Simple as that. You'll find that it's also hard for you to maintain your presence if you're really hungry and your blood sugar drops. Or if you overeat and your blood sugar rises and your blood is drawn away from your extremities into your gut to digest the food. All of these things will have an effect on your ability to be present. And we're lying to ourselves if we tell ourselves that it doesn't. if you go out and you walk for 10 miles up and down mountains, when you are done, your body is going to want to withdraw and rest. And if you try and stay present, it will kick you. So part of what we need to do is to move with our entire organism rather than trying to work against it. So when you wake up at night and you notice that you are present and yet you are groggy, realize that that is your body telling you, go back to sleep, dude. We need more rest.
Yeah, Jonathan, how is that? I feel like you were going to say more, and I just wanted to know if this was. I think this
Yeah,
is all
I'm no,
super
I'm
interesting, but
yeah. There's no doubt that I'm either present or not. If I had doubts, which I did in the past, a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't have any more doubts on that aspect. But I'm still questioning is there a deeper presence or a shallower presence? That's why I threw that example in, but I'm not convinced, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Let us know when you get it figured out, man.
I will. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, that's interesting though, and it allowed us to get into a discussion from which talk about the fact that we are a living, our consciousness is here due to this ability to be in our bodies and experience this, I don't know, this realm, whatever this is. It is the interface through which we experience this world, and we have to take good care of it. And it is what allows us to have, as far as we know, a recognizably conscious experience as opposed to something diffuse and relatively nonsensical. So we may as well take care of it, right? We may as well acknowledge that it has needs that we must fulfill, and that enables us to keep doing the work that we do.
Yeah. And those needs, the body can exert a huge amount of control over you because it has a powerful drive to make sure those needs are fulfilled. I think of it, oftentimes we will sound like we're saying we are a consciousness in a body. And I do not believe this is true. I think that we are a field phenomena where
I'm glad you bring
being
that up.
is at one pole of the field and matter is at the other pole.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it manifests with us is that our body is one pole, our being, our essence is the other pole, and they interact. And if you take away one or the other, the field breaks down.
Yep.
So no ghosts in the machine around here.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, that's important. But I mean, we've also talked about how, I want to tie it to other things we've discussed, which is that whatever, we have essence, as we're talking about here, and we also have what we call the ego or the nafs, and that's like the animal part of us that needs to be fed and taken care of and sheltered and treated with respect, because it allows this experience. Yes, it enables this experience in a way that is a privilege, really.
Yeah. And each of these, essence has a realm and ego has a realm. There are even words for them. The realm of essence is afak. in Arabic, and the realm of ego is anfus. Anfus actually comes from the same root as nafs does. And we will talk more about that at another time. This is
Yeah.
just to get you going, oh, there could be something cool in the future for them
Yeah,
to
I
talk about.
didn't mean to get us on a tangent. I just want us to understand that all of this is interconnected, and
Yeah.
that is always important to consider. It's not like this is happening in isolation from this other phenomenon or practice that we do. It is all connected. I think that's pretty cool, personally.
Yeah. So are there any last questions, thoughts, comments? Show of hands, who thinks we're crazy?
I mean, I always think we're crazy,
Yeah.
but
Yes, we are crazy.
But you stick around anyway. Thanks, guys. Any last questions? Zainab, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Have we touched on the 2 points of intention before?
I think we have
No.
discussed that in previous talks, if not
We have
this
talked
one.
about intention, but
Yeah.
we haven't talked about it in this direct model yet. We've been saving this.
Good question, though. She's on to us.
Yeah.
And do we need to have this space between the eye, or could it be any other space in the head as well?
There's a reason that we use the space between the eyes. So yeah, that's kind of specific, actually. And basically it's to stimulate your pineal gland.
So I've touched on this before in recent conversations, and that's like, they've shown this to be true in body parts like hands and feet, that when we envision them becoming warm, it can have a physiological effect, for example. That's just one example. And when we direct attention to that part of our body, we could consider that we are focusing, we're bringing awareness to that part of the body, thus
And probably
stimulating it.
blood flow.
Yeah, exactly. When I say awareness, I mean like physiological awareness that in turn stimulates blood flow and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, we like to tickle our pineal glands from time to time.
Good, though. I'm glad you asked that, because it's a good nudge for us. Yep, visualizations can be powerful in that way.
Yeah, especially when coupled with breath.
All right, any last thoughts or questions? It looks like we are good.
In that case, let me switch to Brady Bunch mode.
Yep.
Because I hear dinner calling.
Oh man, I am hungry. Hungry. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, as always, and for sticking around to the end if you're watching on YouTube. We very much appreciate that. So let us wave to each other here live and wave to everybody watching, and we will see you again soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.